Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Chantal with Growing Up Without Borders, and today I thought it was going to be a really fun time to compare some of the differences between New Zealand and, well, America in general. When I say America, I'm referring to North America, home for us, and there are so many funny things that are quite different. I've seen some of these things maybe in Europe, but I'm going to predominantly share the most shocking and kind of differences that you're going to experience when you come here to New Zealand. So, you guys ready for it? Let's get started. So one of the things that you're going to be surprised about is if you're driving through a small little town and it might be 4 in the afternoon, stores will be closed. So we've been to so many of these small little communities and you go to get, something at the hardware store and it's only 4 p.m. and they're totally closed down. You go maybe to a little cafe or something and it's 3 p.m. closed down. This is normal. So New Zealand has a much more, I would say, relaxed society, and they value the balance of work and fun and like a relaxed lifestyle, family work balance, you can call it. And so basically this is revealed in their stores being closed early. So I would say also, like, if you come here, just forget about going shopping at midnight. It's just not going to happen. They don't do that here. So a lot of the stores will close, I don't know, maybe 9 at night. There are like the odd one. There's maybe like one that I know of that might be open like super late. But other than that, it closes early. So this is just the way it goes. There are some cafes as well that sell meat pies, and they'll literally close shop when they're out of pies. So it's like depending on, when they're out of pies. So that's a big, big difference, guys. Shopping's huge, and it's not a consumerism society like we have in the US. It's just not like that here. People don't overconsume goods and things like that. So you don't have that. This is a big one. So did you know that the gas stations here do not serve slushies? So if you don't know what a slushie is like a big frozen kind of slushy drink, like a Slurpee slushie. They don't have those here. So, and that was the girls who noticed that. Like they said, Mom, they don't have slushies in their gas stations. I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. But they do have coffee everywhere. So this is a country that you can get a good coffee literally everywhere. You can be driving in the middle of nowhere on a road that has nothing around you, and you might see this sign that's like spray painted coffee. If you pull over, you'll find that they have like a real coffee machine and they're serving real, authentic, really delicious coffee. So this is like amazing, because I'm sorry, but in the United States, there's just like no comparison, right? Just forget about it. Oh, this is a huge one. So a big difference in, if you're talking US to New Zealand, is healthcare. Healthcare here is a generalized system. You can buy private as well, but for the most part, it's in the taxes. So, you pay your taxes and healthcare is included, which means that everyone can see a doctor if they need to see a doctor. So this is massively, massively different from the US. Okay, let's talk about schools, the differences between the schools. So here, our kids haven't been to school in New Zealand. They have been to school in Florida and in the US, but the biggest difference that we see here is so many of them have these uniforms, and a lot of them are very ugly. Like, they're not pretty. The girls' skirts, sorry guys, but they're just not up to date, and so I think that's something they need to consider. And I don't know why they do this. I think it's because maybe back in the day when it was first established, no one really revamped the look and the feel of the uniforms. So I've seen some that are more, a little bit nicer than others, but for the most part, a lot of the schools have uniforms. Not all of them, but a lot of them. They also have Maori immersion schools, so you can send your kids to a school where they have like Maori, all Maori, or part Maori, which is their native language here, if you didn't know that. So it's really cool. They also have a lot of all boys schools and all girls schools, whereas you don't see that as much anymore in Canada or in the US. So that's something that's quite different as well. Let's talk about bathrooms. This is a huge thing, because when you're traveling and you have 3 girls as we do, bathrooms are a top priority. So you can go, I know in the US, it's different because you go to the service station, the gas station and stuff like that, and there's always a bathroom. But here in New Zealand, when you're driving on their highways, first of all, their highways aren't what you think. Like, they're not these big 4-lane highways. That just doesn't exist here. But so that means also there's no big gas stations, everywhere. But where you stop is in every little town, every single town, tiny town, big town, no matter what, there's always public bathrooms everywhere, and they're clean. This includes when you're going to national parks. Not only are they clean, but there's usually soap and toilet paper. So that's huge. This is amazing. And they're free. You don't pay to go in. Some of them have music, you know, it's kind of like all fancy and they're all automated. But for the most part, yeah, it's a pretty good thing that New Zealand has that. So let's go back to the roads. On the roads, when you're driving, you do not have like these straight, boring highways. It's like these twisty, turny roads because, well, you just think of the amount of people that live in New Zealand. If you didn't know, it's under 6 million. So they don't have the need or the amount of people on the roads to like build these big highways, and it doesn't make sense because it's a very mountainous country. So, and it's pretty large for the amount of people that are here, you know, so it's not as populated as what you would think. So to go from one pass over to the other, you know, over the mountain and over, they don't build a tunnel through like they do in Europe. Like if you're in Europe, you go through tunnel, in let's say southern Italy. Well, it just doesn't happen here. So you're literally going all the way up and down and around and all over like this. Because you'll be driving and there's like these big logging trucks and they're like on this big twisty curvy road where you have to slow down to like 35 kilometers an hour to go around the bend. I'm not joking. It's like that. And would you believe it? Their main highway has 1-lane bridges everywhere. So it's really funny to think, like imagine you're in a country and like their main national highway has a 1-lane bridge at one point. So that's just the way it is. In the South Island, you see that everywhere. On the outlets, so when you go to an outlet and you go to plug something in, it has a little switch. And you basically have to power it on or off to get the electricity. So, I mean, I've seen this in the UK, and I'm trying to think like, you know, maybe Malaysia or I forget where, but like, you know, other places that have like a UK kind of system have that, but I've never seen that anywhere else, which is bizarre. So yeah, that's the way it is. I don't even know, you have to comment below, but I don't know if it's like, if there's a reason for it. Maybe it's like, it's good for, you know, little kids, babies, you know, you don't have to like worry about them, but I don't know why they do that. But yeah, that's the way it is. The other thing is they have like on their toilets, you can flush. So you can flush for a little bit amount of water or, you know, a lot of water depending on what you've done. So yeah, you're starting to see that a little bit more in other countries. Europe certainly has it. And I think on the America side, we're just like far behind because Europe had that already back in like, I don't know, late 80s, 90s. So yeah. There you go. One of the biggest differences here is they have all these like beautiful vast mountains, but it's not like in certain countries where you can drive up every mountain road. You know, you can see a lot of mountains that are just like barren. They're just like these beautiful mountains. You don't really have any villages up in the mountains either. So the villages are mainly low. All of them are very close to water. So if you didn't know, New Zealand is like, you know, islands. So everyone's like within, I don't know, maybe like an hour or 2 hours of water, because from the central part of the island, or whether it's north or the south, literally you can be from coast to coast in a matter of like I said, an hour or so. So it's pretty cool. A lot of people own boats. Like I don't know the exact number, but I feel like there's almost more boats per capita of people because there's just boats everywhere you look. There's beautiful boats. It's just amazing. Sailboats. On all these beautiful mountains, you've got all these trails like everywhere, and you can walk all these amazing great trails in New Zealand. And not only, because I know that you have trails and stuff in other countries, but what's really unique about New Zealand is you can actually book yourself into what's called a hut. And these huts are like all along the walking trails, and you can carry your gear with you and your food, and you go sleep in a hut. And then you just meet other people who might be sleeping there. They have bunk beds. They usually have like a little fireplace, of course, to keep you warm because it can get really cold. But yeah, it's like camping along the walk. So they have like these big, great walks. I believe there are 6 great walks that you can do. And then they have smaller walks that you can do as well. So this is really unique to New Zealand. Nothing will harm you. You know, you could be out in the middle of the forest and you won't have a bear attack you. You know, you won't have any kind of like dangerous spider bite you. Maybe I think there's one kind of spider. Someone once commented on our channel saying there is a spider, but I think it's very rare. You know, not like Australia, and certainly not like the US where you have like a snake that might, you know, eat you, or fire ants who might like get after your toes if you walk around barefoot. That's another huge difference. You're gonna see people walking around bare feet, like they're barefoot everywhere. Barefoot Kiwi is what I'm calling them. And I think probably a lot of people call them that, but you'll see people walking barefoot everywhere because it's safe, because you can't get sued. You know, they have something called ALC, I think I'm saying it right, which is basically an insurance. If anyone comes to New Zealand and they're traveling here and they have an accident, you're covered by their insurance. And so this is a huge difference because no one sues the companies because there's no point, because you have the insurance that covers you and so on and so forth. So people don't really, you know, care for things that might be considered dangerous in other countries. Like, God forbid you walk anywhere barefoot in the US, you'll probably get shunned upon. And we've had the security guys tell us to put on our shoes at Disney. And this was like a day that it was pouring rain, and you're like, shoes are getting soaked. So what do? We take off our shoes and we're walking barefoot. And they're like, no, ma'am, put your shoes on. And you just can't do that in the US because they're so worried that you might slip and fall and then, or step on a piece of glass and then sue them. So very, 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 very different. It also makes the activities here more kind of exciting and maybe a little bit more dangerous because they can offer you all these crazy adventures that they can't do in other countries without, signing your life away. I know our girls were in the US and they were with my sister, and she was bringing them to this thing just to go and visit a fire truck and a police truck. And she had to sign waivers for them to step inside a fire truck. I mean, it was ridiculous. So you just don't have that here in New Zealand. It's kind of more normal, you could say. The people are more relaxed, not as, it's just different. Once you come here, people are just, they're real. That's the word for it. Authentic and real. I find that the people are just not as fluffy and showy. We went to the most fluffity uppity part of a place in the country called Pauanui, and some people call it Pufanui. It's where all the rich people have their homes, their second homes. They come in from Auckland because it's a very short flight away in the Coromandel, and they fly in with all their private planes, and then they park their planes in the little garages. And it's supposed to be the uppity, place in New Zealand, and nobody there was uppity. I was really concerned when I went. I was like, oh gosh, here we go. We're gonna go to the, whatever you want to call it, of the US. It wasn't like that. People were wearing flip-flops, what they call jandals here, and they had a what do you call those stores, a Super Saver store, and they had what's called an op shop here, which is a secondhand store. So people reuse, and they're not consumerism and focused oriented. They'll just go to an op shop and buy a secondhand whatever, because why waste and why produce so much junk on this beautiful planet Earth? So it's so different, so different. Back to the relaxed people.
What are you doing, bro? Dude, I'm beached ears.
Okay, you'll never see this in any other country, especially not in Europe. I mean, in Europe, it's just ridiculous. People are so unfriendly in a lot of places and just unwilling to help. They really value their work. So when it's done and closed, they're like, I am not serving you anymore because I'm done my workday. Here's the opposite. We went to a bank and we needed to deposit money into someone's bank, and the lady working at the bank actually unlocked the door and accepted us and allowed us to do the transaction. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I wouldn't, you just won't see that in any other country. And I'm not sure if it's because we have an accent and she thought, oh, you poor tourist, let me help you out. But I really honestly think that people here are just super friendly and nice, and they sincerely want to help you. And there's no, they don't want something in return for it. So this is huge. We also, we were getting really close to running out of gas once, and this guy on the side of the road basically gave us gas, and I went to pay him, and he's like, no, this is what we're here for. It was a Higgins truck company. Basically, they go and they help when there's emergencies on the road, and he just happened to be there at the right time. And for those of you who are Kiwi watching, we were leaving Napier over to Taupo, and the one gas station before you leave town had caught on fire, and so we didn't get gas. And I thought, oh, surely there's another one. Well, there wasn't, and there's no gas station in between the two cities. I couldn't believe it. They had all these stops for electric plug cars, but nothing when it came to a gas station. So anyway, this really, really, really nice guy helped us out and helped us get to Taupo. So there you go. Oh, another cool thing. They have a goal to get rid of all gasoline cars by 2023. So imagine it's gonna be all electric cars. So they're very environmentally cautious. That's a massive difference, okay, you guys? When you go to the United States, there are still stores that double bag your heavy things. You don't see that anywhere. People don't use plastic. You don't use plastic plates. You don't use plastic cups. You do not do that in this country, and many other countries for that matter. So the rest of the world, if you're watching, you know, I know Japan, you guys are totally into your plastic, and other countries like that, like, dudes, like, wake up, you know? It's terrible. So yeah, they're very environmentally cautious, and I think that's where the kind of non-consumerism type of people stem out of, because they just don't want to waste. That's what I believe. Maybe it's different, so just comment below if I'm saying the wrong thing, please. Another big thing is the seasons. I still can't get my head wrapped around here. We've been here for a year, and I can't figure out like what time of the year we are, because I had the same thing when we were in Florida, because it was always warm all year that you just didn't know what season you were in. Well, here it's the opposite. You feel like it's now almost Christmas, but no, it's spring, because we're in the opposite, you know, side of the world. So instead of having, you know, fall, then it's spring, and vice versa. So right now, you know, we are getting ready for our winter here, but it's summer over there. And so I just seriously have such a hard time. This entails even my work, because when we work with certain clients, I work with certain people at certain times of the year, and I'm just completely confused with invoicing, with everything. I always get confused, because I'm like, wait, what? So I remember last year we were like baking Christmas things, and it wasn't really Christmas time, but it felt like it. So yeah, that's a huge difference, and probably one of the hardest things I'm having a hard time adapting to. Everything else has been super easy, and even though things are different, they're pretty much the same. The language, being English, is very easy to get by and all that. So, okay, another big thing you're gonna notice though when you come to New Zealand is the words are so different. So people will say things like sweet as and like turbo, and they're really relaxed everywhere. So you can go to a cashier and you're cashing out, and she's not gonna be all formal with you. They're just like all like that. So they're like, oh yeah, sweet as, you know? So like the overall, like, I don't know, the language they use is very slang, I guess you could say. It's the way they speak. And so there's a lot of words that are different. And the first time you hear them say that, you're like, you don't even know what they're saying. You know, I can go on and on. But basically, like, when they say it's tea time, it could mean dinner. When they're saying they're going to have pudding, that means they're eating their dessert. When they say go get your jandals, that means go get your flip-flops. When they say put it in the chili bin, that means the cooler. So, like, it goes on and on. They just use different words here, and it's quite funny to... Once you get, you know, here for a while, you'll end up saying things like I reckon. So they say reckon a lot, and just different words. Yeah, it's pretty funny. One of the biggest differences, and this is especially if you're coming from North America to New Zealand, the homes, not all homes are fully insulated like they have in Canada and northern US, meaning the windows are double paned. They do not have a centralized heating system. I know some homes do. Okay, so if you're watching this and you're like, yeah, my home is, not all homes are though. And a lot of homes, they'll have these like little, you know, hot water bottles. Like for me, a hot water bottle is like if you're feeling sick, you put it on your belly. Like I've never even seen a hot water bottle since I was like 8 years old or something like that. Like, but they have them here, and they put them in their beds to keep it warm. Almost all homes have like heating blankets on their bed, like an electric one, so that, you know, you stay warm in the winter. And they'll have something called a heat pump. A heat pump is like we have in America as an air conditioning unit that you have at the top of your, you know, in your ceiling, but this is like for heat instead of cold air. Yeah, so it's totally different. But yeah, not many people have radiators like you have in Europe. In Europe, you see radiators everywhere. They just don't have that. So there are, like, we've stayed in a few homes that are like super nice and really nice, and they have like all in-floor heating and stuff like that, but it's not the norm. And they've only recently put in place certain things for people who are renting, that it's like mandatory to have it insulated underneath the home and stuff like that. So before that, imagine how cold it would have been. The other difference is you're going to see people wearing shorts all year round. Like seriously, this country doesn't get as cold as you would have in North America. As a matter of fact, the north of the North Island, they call it the winterless north. And it is, it's pretty much winterless, and that comes across in like growing all your fruit and everything like that. But yeah, you still see people wearing like flip-flops and shorts in the winter, and I've never ever seen this in other countries. So it's like only in New Zealand. It's just crazy. You see people wearing rubber boots in grocery stores and barefoot in grocery stores, just like, and pajamas in grocery stores. Like you just see the funniest things. So anyway, I think those are like the top things I can think of in my head when I think of like the major differences between the two countries, North America and New Zealand. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it was fun. If you think of any others, please comment below and share them, because it's always fun to talk about these kind of things. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel, because we have so many cool New Zealand videos coming out for you guys. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye!